The conservative Islamic view is that wearing a head covering, and sometimes even a face covering, is fard, obligatory for women. This view is completely separate from Islam and a result of superimposing cultural belief while interpreting the Quran and Hadith. In this video, I will speak on this issue, addressing the most common misconceptions or proofs from the Quran used by conservative scholars to justify the enforcement of the head covering, and sometimes veil, unjustly upon the believing women. While the hadiths are often irreliable and can be cherry-picked to push any agenda, the Quran is infallible and perfectly preserved by God. Therefore, we will start with this short video dismantling the misconceptions modern Islam has about the head covering and veil in the Quran. The two Quran verses used most commonly by conservative Islamic scholars are as follows: Surat An-Nur, chapter 24, verse 31, and Surat Al-Ahzab, chapter 33, verse 59. Beginning with Surat An-Nur, verse 31, an English translation reads as follows: And tell the believing women to reduce some of their vision, and guard their private part, and not expose their adornments, except that which necessarily appears thereof, and to wrap a portion of their head covers over their chests, and not expose their adornments, except to their husbands, their fathers, their husbands' fathers, their sons, their husbands' sons, their brothers' sons, their sisters' sons, their women, that which their right hand possesses, or those male attendants having no physical desire, or children who are not yet aware of the private aspects of women. And let them not stamp their feet to make known what they conceal of their adornment, and turn to Allah in repentance, all of you, O believers, that you might succeed. As we can clearly see in this verse, the believing women referenced are already wearing a head covering for cultural reasons unrelated to Islam, and are simply instructed by Allah to cover their bosoms, breasts, in front of non-mahram men. The believing women of the time were already wearing headscarves before Islam, and simply instructed to cover their bosoms. As long as the bosoms are covered, the headscarf is not mandated in this verse. We will follow with Surat Al-Ahzab, verse 59, which is generally agreed to be the most concrete evidence for mandatory head coverings by scholars. O Prophet, tell your wives and your daughters, and the women of the believers, to bring down over themselves part of their outer garments, or jilbab, that is more suitable that they will be known and not be abused. And ever is Allah forgiving and merciful. For those without much knowledge of Islamic history, this chapter of the Quran was revealed in Medina, at which time the Muslims were being persecuted by several different groups, most notably the polytheist Quraysh, whose women already wore face coverings. Muslims were brutalized by the Quraysh, and the verse clearly states that the believing women should lower their garments so as to not be recognized as Muslims and hence abused and harassed. This means that if a woman is in a country where she can freely display her face and head without fear of abuse and harassment, then she is not forbidden from doing so. It is only when there is a risk of harassment or abuse that this covering is required. In many countries, it could even be argued that wearing a head or face covering would put a woman in even more danger due to prejudices against Muslims.